Chiefs Kingdom, be sure to subscribe to the channel and don't miss out on a single video, whether it's a news update, rumor that's out there, whatever the case may be. Training camp is here, and we do not want you guys to miss out. So subscribe today, turn on those notifications. With that being said, let's jump into today's mailbag video. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. We're going to answer some questions from our loyal subscribers. Shout out to everybody who sent in some. Nick Wubker says, do you think the Chiefs trade for another wide receiver this season like they did for Toney last season? Obviously, the Kadarius Toney midseason trade ended up paying off well for KC as he had a big impact in the Super Bowl with a nice punt return and a touchdown. You look at this wide receiver depth chart right now, and there are some questions. I think the depth is strong, but you lack that proven top guy, right? I think that's a legitimate concern. That's why I was pushing so hard for the Kansas City Chiefs to sign DeAndre Hopkins in NFL free agency. He obviously ended up signing with the Tennessee Titans, but I think it is possible. I think there is a scenario where Brett Veach at the NFL trade deadline doesn't love the production the Chiefs wide receivers are giving Patrick Mahomes, so maybe he goes and adds somebody at the deadline. Now, I still think this could be a good group. I like the depth of it. It's just can a top person emerge? Can that happen? We're going to explore who the number one receiver could be based on some of your questions here in just a little bit. But if we're midway through the year, trade deadline's coming up, and the Chiefs receivers are struggling a bit, I would not be surprised at all if an aggressive GM like Brett Veach makes a move at the trade deadline. Now, what is your confidence level in the Chiefs wide receiver room? Scale it from 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being very confident. I'll go 7 because Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a steady veteran. Kadarius Toney and Skyy Moore each have big potential. If one of those guys hit, you feel pretty good. I like the depth with Justin Watson, Rashee Rice, and Richie James. Rice has had a strong start to camp as well. So 7, I like the depth. I don't love the top flight option, so we'll see how it plays out. Let us know what you guys think. Curran Slayer next up here. What are the odds Marquez Valdes-Scantling of being a number one wide receiver? And I also wanted to ask this question at the same time from Mike Nintendo Master. He says, who will be the number one receiver? So someone's asking about MVS. Mike is asking in general about who will be that number one guy. So wanted to answer these questions together. Let's start with MVS, who had a solid season last year. As a complementary piece, he's very, very good because he's a big play weapon, over 16 yards per catch, had 687 yards receiving on 42 catches, just a couple of touchdowns. But remember, he had the huge AFC Championship game as well that helped Kansas City get into the Super Bowl. I've always said this about MVS. He's not a number one. Great complementary, can be a 2 or a 3, someone who stretches the field, but he's not a number one, and I don't think he'll ever be. I hope Kadarius Toney can be that guy. I think that's what the Chiefs are hoping for as well. But again, that's why I was pushing for Hopkins to take pressure off Toney and get a more proven guy in here. But who knows, right? I mean, Toney helped this team out, but the reality is in 19 career games, this is what he's done. That's pretty underwhelming, from a statistical output standpoint. So does he have the skills? Yes. Does he have the overall talent? I think so. Does he have some chemistry built in with Patrick Mahomes already? Yeah, I think that's true as well. But there's also legit question marks. I mean, he's acted a fool on Twitter. Like, he was a disaster with the Giants to the point where they just quit on him. Like, does he have his head screwed on straight? I think that's a legitimate question. Love the talent, love the player. He's got to put it all together and prove himself, though. Who will the Chiefs' number one wide receiver be this year? If I had to guess, I'll say Kadarius Toney, but I can't say it with a high level of confidence because, A, he hasn't been a week in, week out consistent contributor in his career, and he's still very young. So let me know what you guys think. Pen comment on today's video. Who's going to be that top receiver for the Chiefs? The one named Chris, the one. Who on the roster that hasn't gotten a lot of buzz do you think is poised to have a bigger role in the team's success than people predict going into the year? These are 5 guys I would consider sleepers, just players who we all know and know to be good players but aren't being talked about a ton, like Skyy Moore. I don't think we've talked a lot about him this offseason. He had a lot of hype coming out of college. Slow start last year, had some special teams miscues as a returner, but came on strong, like Toney, had a touchdown in the Super Bowl, had that big punt return in the AFC Championship game as well. So I think he's someone. George Karlaftis, great second half of the season last year. I think he could have a huge year for a player we're not talking about a ton. More of a veteran, Justin Reid, up and down last year, but he was talking about kind of taking on ownership of being the veteran of this secondary. I think he could have a big year. Jody Fortson, kind of feels like now or never, right? Big-time red zone target. Can he be like that true number 2 tight end behind Travis Kelce, or is it still going to be Noah Gray? And then Drue Tranquill, who they threw $5 million at in free agency. You got Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, but Tranquill was really good for the Chargers last year. I think he's going to play quite a bit and have a role on this defense. Now, name a Chiefs sleeper in the comments below. Who's someone out there that you guys think isn't getting as much love as they should? Drop his name down in the comments section. Maybe it's Nikko Remigio. Tyler Goring was asking about him, the UDFA wide receiver out of Fresno State. You look at his numbers from Fresno a year ago. 852 yards and 74 grabs, 11.5 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. Had a nice season for Fresno State as a fifth-year senior after transferring in there. The problem with Remigio when it comes to the Chiefs is, we've talked about this a lot, while the Chiefs don't have that proven number 1, they've got 6, 7, even 8, 9 receivers that are intriguing, right? You got the first 4 there, Toney, MVS, Moore, and Rice. Richie James, who's coming off a good year. Justin Watson, who's coming off a good year. Justin Ross, who's very intriguing. John Ross, who had a good offseason program. Cornell Powell, who's been here for 2 years on the practice squad. Amir Smith-Marset, who they like as well. I mean, there's a lot of depth here and a lot of traffic to get through if you're Nikko Remigio. But there's also been reports of Remigio standing out in the offseason program and early on during the rookie part of training camp. So, look, I think he's probably auditioning for other teams. I don't think there will be a spot for him here. But my thoughts are, so far, he looks the part. I'm excited to see how he plays in preseason games. But at the end of the day, I think he's also just buried too far in the depth chart. But maybe he's got a chance to make another roster. So I think, when you think about the Chiefs in the preseason, that's a player to watch for, right? Like, we don't need to see Mahomes. We don't need to see Kelce. Nikko Remigio, I'm excited, though. Also excited to talk to you guys every single day here on the Kansas City Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more videos here on the channel, because that's what we do. Mailbags. I think live show's probably going to come back next week. I've been busy with NBA content here at Chat Sports for the past month or so, but we're going to bring those back, so be on the lookout for those. Training camp updates, news, rumors, if they sign anybody, cut anybody, we're going to be here for all of it. Excited for the season to come. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll see you soon.